Hello, good evening, and a very warm greetings to our audience who are joining us on this live discussion of Stripe Dialogues. Today, we are going to discuss once again China, and we are going to discuss something which is slightly different from the normal activities which are going on. It is essentially the strategies employed by China to achieve its national interests and national goals in its vicinity as well as at the global level by using non-military means, which in today's parlance we refer to as gray zone war. And as part of its gray zone war, it is the non it is the warfare strategy, which is one of the toolkits of the gray zone war, which China has been utilizing. To discuss all this, we have with us eminent personality with us, Brigadier Bhatia. Welcome, Brigadier Bhatia, to this discussion. Uh,
Thank you,
I
sir.
would like to I would like to tell our audience that Brigadier Bhatia is a former military intelligence officer who served in the Indian Army and has been watching China very closely, not from very recently, but from the time he has been in this particular service and has a very vast knowledge of the Chinese strategy. But before we go in for this discussion further and request Brigadier Bhatia to, to actually elaborate upon the three warfare strategy, let me give you the context of the three warfare strategy. So, if you see this slide which is there in front of you, it says gray zone war, and gray zone war is the domain which is between peace and war. But the Russia Ukraine war has somehow conveyed this impression that gray zone war is not only between the state of peace and war between two states or two nations, but it is now continuing into the war. First of all, it is being played out during peace, between peace and war, and extending into the war zone as well. So it has become a very, very potent tool which is being utilized not as an officially stated policy, but it is being actually conducted. In the case of China, it has done a very smart thing. It employed a think tank. Essentially, the PLA asked the think tank to come out with a strategy of non military means to achieve its aim against its regional adversary as well as the global adversary. All of you know that the regional adversary is India and the global adversary is USA in specific terms and West in general terms. So, therefore, it becomes important for us to discuss the three warfare strategy, because unless we understand this, we will not be able to devise our own strategies. So, although this think tank, which was employed by PLA, which came out with this three warfare strategy, and it is not part of its official policy as far as warfare is concerned, but it is being taken as a willy-nilly policy of of the Chinese PLA and the Chinese nation as such. And Xi Jinping seems to be very, very focused in employing this particular tactics. If you go to the context in detail, we have been conducting at Strive Dialogues a series of discussions on China. This is the fourth one in the row, and second with Brigadier Bhatia, which is specifically targeting the intelligence aspect of the Chinese PLA. He discussed was the Zeokong villages. Zeokong means well-off villages. Essentially, what Xi Jinping is doing is that in the name of having a development along its border, it has come out with a land border policy. As part of that, it is actually rehabilitating Chinese who in these villages who are pro PLA, pro China, and anti Dalai Lama. Essentially, they are acting as a watchdog along the borders to ensure that pro Dalai Lama uh, Tibetans are not allowed to infiltrate into Tibet, because if there is any big concern for China in the west, in the western part of China, it is Tibet. So therefore, one is it wants to keep a check as a buffer. Secondly, it wants to give the environment to Panchal Lama, who is the propped up Dalai Lama equivalent as far as the China is concerned. And how does this particular development of Ziakong and the other activities which the Chinese are doing against us is being implemented comes or falls under the broad rubric of three warfare strategy, which comprises of public opinion warfare, psychological warfare, and legal warfare. To discuss all this, I now request Brigadier Bhatia to proceed with his opening comments and the presentation on the three warfare strategy, and thereafter we will pick up the questions as we go along during our discussion. Over to you, Brigadier Bhatia. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for good words. And in fact, this slide will come very handy to continue with what I say. By end of this presentation, I will go back to Siakong villages and say, give out the details how exactly the public opinion warfare, psychological warfare, and legal warfare is at display by establishing this Siakong villages. So, coming on to today's topic, I will start with a very small story which a former diplomat once told me. A Chinese stand on the borders and takes a broad sweep at neighbor's land. Then he takes off his hat and throws it across the border. A while later, he points to the hat on the neighbor's land and says, "That hat has been there since antiquity. It proves that this has historically been my land." Now, the problem with the victim, the original owner of the land, is that this person who is the grabber has done his homework very well. Firstly, he's gone around and spread a story, very well made story, saying that this land belongs to me. He's a bully. And he's also done his legal work properly. He does not refrain from bribing the officials, even up to the level of judges. Now, the original owner is in a quandary. Now, what does he do? Does he fight with the bully? Does he fight it legally? Or does he just leave it? This is exactly what the three warfare is doing. Here, a story is concocted, little bit of facts are put in to make it look credible. Thereafter, it is peddled across whatever platform is available, because the Chinese have very well understood this fact that whose story wins may be more important than whose army wins. Now, why does the Chinese look for territory? What exactly does it gain by gaining the territory? It gives them additional resources, influence, and territory. So, everywhere, wherever we have seen, whether it is in South China Sea or East China Sea or along our borders, they are always looking for additional land and grab it to make their security better, get hold of the resources of that area, and this definitely increases their influence. Now, how did it all start? It started initially with a book called Unrestricted Warfare. The cover you can see on the right side of the screen. Now, this is a fantastic mixture of Chinese strategic culture, clever realpolitik, and understanding the modern day environment. Now, this book was published in 1999, written by two colonels of Air Force of Political Department of PLA, who were posted at Guangzhou. And the gist of that entire book was that any method can be prepared for use in warfare. Information is everywhere. Battlefield is everywhere. Any technology in isolation or combined with any other isolation can be used, exploited, and the boundaries between war and non-war and between military and non-military affairs have systematically broken down. This was the gist of this entire book, and it found favors with the senior leaders of CCP. Can I have next slide, sir?
Yeah, go ahead. You continue.
Okay. Now, amongst this various facets of unrestricted warfare, which loosely can be termed as hybrid warfare or gray zone warfare, one of the important constituent of this is the three warfare, which the Chinese are actually employing with impunity. Now, these
Uh,
three
uh,
warfares,
Brigadier Bhatia, I would like to just intervene here and
sir,
state that while unrestricted warfare does not have a little bit of official sanctity, the three warfare
I'm coming.
strategy has an official sanctity. That is the
Absolutely.
slight bit of difference between the two books. This one is actually commissioned by the PLA. So
That's correct.
that is where the link establishes. Go ahead.
Absolutely, sir. Just to further add on to what you have said, sir, it was in 2003 that this strategy of three warfare was included in the political work of the PLA, and in
Absolutely.
2010 it was passed by the Congress. So it has become an
Absolutely.
official form.
Absolutely.
So, three warfare: is public opinion warfare, psychological warfare, and legal warfare. Now, there are covers of two books that I have mentioned. I have taken most of the details from these two books. The one on the left side is Chinese Influence Operations. This is written by a French author and gives a lot of detailed study of the three warfare. And the one on political warfare also covers the three warfare fairly in detail. So, viewers who want to continue, these are the two books which I would refer to. Now, coming on to the constituents of correction three warfare, first of all is the public opinion. It can is also called the media warfare. This has got to do with manipulation of perception and attitude. Now, media, whatever is coming up, is based
Could
on
you
half truth.
could you relate it as an information operations in a broad sense?
That's correct, sir. It is a sort of it's a step in information warfare. What
Okay.
we are doing, and also in addition, it is also influencing the mind for further psychological operations as well as legal operations. So this is a preamble for that. So coming on to half truth is that it is true, but it is out of context, and it is fitting into the overall concept, but it is not fully true. Big lie is a German propaganda technique by which they tell something which is absolutely out of the ordinary. So people tend to believe this because how can some official say such a big lie? Deception, distortion, distraction is common in this media warfare. This is leading to fake news. Now, how they're
Uh,
covering?
Brigade Bhatia, I would like to tell our viewers a very interesting anecdote which has come to actually story which has come today in the Global Times. They have issued out an article in Global Times stating that ANI is a factory of fake news,
Correct.
uh, a news which is totally distorting facts and going against the Chinese and the Pakistanis. So look at their, one step ahead policy of trying to undermine uh, our own media as though it is part of the government's propaganda. You know, they believe in something, so they are trying to reflect the same thing onto the Indian media. Whereas we all know that the Indian media is fairly independent and not influenced that much by the. So I just wanted to connect the two things that how
Correct.
smart these guys are.
Sir, in any case, media in a communist country and in a democratic country, there is a vast difference in the control of information.
I'm just referring to this because of the their being current on these issues on a
Yes,
daily basis. They are issuing out these kind of articles in their leading newspapers.
right. Sir, continuing ahead, FM channel, sir. This is a very interesting thing that has happened in Kolkata, sir. There's a very popular FM channel where they have started a quiz on communism, and this
Okay.
quiz was open to students of schools up to the class 12th, and very attractive prizes. The person who's winning the prize, he was offered a 2 nights and a 3 day stay at Kunming's. So this is how the Kunming Kolkata chapter is there. So they had offered him a stay at Kunming, the kid who won this tournament.
Okay.
Training of journalists, sir. Now, especially for BRI, there was a course which was conducted by the PLA, overall headed by the political department of PLA. The instructors there had a fair amount of experience in handling Global Times and Sinhua. Now, these journalists were selected by the embassy in the respective country where the BRI is coming, and a stipend up to 5,000 yuans was being paid to them. Two incidents happened somewhere around late 2020. There was an attack on Apple manufacturing plant. We have it in Bangalore. There was some sort of violence which had taken place,
Yeah.
and followed by farmers' agitation. Now, this was the time post-COVID when a lot of US manufacturing companies were coming out of China. Sir, in no time, these two incidents were blown out of proportion, and the hold that Chinese have on social media, this went viral. This was basically a media warfare against India, that Indian conditions are not suitable for people to move in the factories in that particular place. They caught on and immediately, spread it around.
Would you
Next,
would
sir.
you like to would you like to highlight the connect between the Chinese influence operations with people in US who were recruited for this campaign to ensure that it looked more than a Chinese propaganda but a global propaganda? I am talking
Emerging
of
from, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Greta Thunberg and etc. How these people connected the Khalistanis. I think they got the entire people who are oriented against India into this particular campaign.
Absolutely. And they have their own. As you see, sir, in India, we do not have any global TV, sir. Unlike countries like China has CCTV, Qatar has Al Jazeera, but we don't have anything to counter. Now, this was one of the recommendations that we should also have a media which is spreading, giving out the clarification instantly moment it comes. But today, BBC is there, Voice of America is there. Everybody, every major country has a media outlet.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But I believe we have now got certain things in place where we are countering the information operations of our adversaries fairly quickly. You can take the example of the UK attack, on
Correct.
our embassy. Then some movements in Canada, they were also quickly put to rest. Jastinder Singh Trudeau notwithstanding, right? Yeah, go ahead. His name has
Sir,
been changed. His name has been changed to Jastinder Singh Trudeau.
correct. Yes. That's
Okay.
correct. Sir, having covered in brief about public opinion, we move on to the next, that is the psychological operations. Psychological operation again is based on perception, and here, while in the media it is the attitude, here it is beliefs. Now, very interesting, smoke and mirror. In fact, incidentally, there's a book also by this name, by Smoke and Mirror. Basically, what it means is smoke and mirror is generally referred to as a something which the Chinese don't want you to see. They put it under behind a smoke screen, and something which they want people to understand, they or see, they magnify it using the mirror. Now, this is a trick which is a magician trick. So that they spread and say that they have no weakness whatsoever. At the same time, they discredit, divide, and scare the opponents, to the extent that it actually shapes the cognitive thinking of the adversary and impact his decision making. So they are basically looking at manipulating the adversary's values, national spirits, ethos, ideology, culture, to the extent that they abandon their development path. This is the psychological warfare which is unleashed on the opposition. The psychological warfare, for obvious reason, will use fake news. It will also keep repeating a lie, as they normally say, that you repeat a lie 1,000 times, it becomes a truth. Eventually, it becomes a truth. And
Absolutely.
the last photograph, or you can see, is something called 50-cent warriors. Now, these 50-cent warriors are the ones who are sitting on the computers, and they are given a theme. The slide is too short, but if you see what is written in the white is today's assignment. Project Taiwan as an enemy. Project,
Yeah.
Various tasks are given to them. And
Yeah.
though it is called 50-cent warrior because they were paid half a yuan for every input that they say, but now it has increased. It's anything from $15 to $150 for every report that these people put in. So
There,
this is the
these are also called 1.5 minute videos.
correct, correct. The
Equivalent of
shorts
that.
and the reels and the yes, sir.
And people tend to get impressed by them because of the short duration, as
Correct.
also the big
The
impact
content.
factor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sir, with this, we come to the next part, that is the legal. Now, legal warfare is important to sustain both the media warfare as well as the psychological warfare. Now, when do you want a legal coverage? You, firstly, in media, you use the law as a weapon of war. Now, before the conflict starts, it is to make sure that the just cause of the conflict is spread around, and China is not blamed for launching an operation without any reason. During the conflict, the legitimacy of the operation, the war that has been imposed, is time and again brought out. And after the conflict, whatever is due to China, or whatever China's vision of victory is, it is to ensure that legally they get that. Now, they also say that the West is imposed their own values, norms, and institutions while creating various international rules, conventions, treaties. They said that West, immediately after most of the treaties were after the World War, or UNO laws were made after the World War II, they said that time China was still a developing country. So their viewpoint is that these rules were made by people who were powerful at that time, and now that we have also become a developed or near developed country, these rules need to be changed. Wherever these international rules impinge the sovereignty of the Chinese, they refuse to obey those rules. The case in point is the International Arbiter decision on South China Sea. I'll cover it in subsequently.
Yeah.
Now, legal
Yeah.
warfare, which specifically coming to India. Now, very interestingly, sir, very interestingly, there are three figures. There are three figures which are doing the round as far as the border between India and China is concerned. There is one figure of 4057 kilometers. The second one is 3488 and 2000 kilometers. Now, I'll just briefly explain what is it. 4057 is if we take the border starting from Afghanistan, Gilgit-Baltistan and China tri-junction. That includes entire Gilgit-Baltistan across Aksai chain, comes to J&K boundary, and thereafter it continues. Somehow we take our boundary from Karakoram. If we take from Karakoram to Myanmar, it is 3488. But
Yeah.
Chinese in 2009 suddenly started, Chinese never ever objected to 3488 kilometers. We've been saying it in official communication also. But suddenly in 2009, they started calling the border length as 2,000 kilometer, knocking off 1,500 kilometers. This was basically to say that India does not have sovereignty over J&K. It's a disputed territory.
Yes. Even their
Now,
even even their Sakshgam agreement, if you see, it
1963, that's right, sir.
it very clearly states
Yes,
that
sir.
till
We'll
the resolution
renegotiate it.
till resolution of the dispute between India and
Yes,
Pakistan of J&K. So somewhere they have been smart and have had a very long term vision as far as our
absolutely.
borders are concerned.
Then, sir, somewhere around 2013-14, when the erstwhile 1914 agreement between British, China, and tripartite agreement between British, Tibet, and China was there regarding the boundaries of Tibet. Somewhere around 2013-14, they started saying that all treaties automatically lapse after 100 years if not renewed. They peddled it quite a bit, and they said that in 2014, this treaty is not relevant because international treaties lapse. Somehow it did not have that much of traction, but yes, at that particular time, this was being spread around. Of course, the visa controversies when people hailing from J&K were given stapled visa. In
Yeah,
fact, the biggest embarrassment came when General Jaiswal, erstwhile GOCNC Northern Command, was refused visa because he was commanding troops in a disputed area.
yes.
And then there was another legal issue which came up when one of the IAS trainee officers from Arunachal Pradesh was refused. I mean, they said that you don't need visa since you belong to our own country. So this was another way of conveying that this is part of our
Yeah,
country.
but there are people who ask the question, why can't we, do the same medicine on them in the sense that not on China, but on Pakistan, that we start, doing the similar kind of a thing as far as the POK is concerned. Give them, give them the 10 seats, appoint somebody from there, people who are residing outside our country
Absolutely, absolutely.
as members of the legislative assembly. We need to pay back these guys in the same format. But of course, that will take us. That will take some more political will and possibly some more time before we can do that kind of a thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, I'll just add, we were very quick to recognize Tibet as part of China.
Yeah,
I mean, we wasted no time. The appeasement was at height, but they have never ever recognized J&K, despite having so much of trade and this thing, but they've never ever recognized. Of course, for reasons which we can, in fact, have another
that would be a
podcast for that, sir.
that would be a separate thing. In fact, you see what went along during that period. Uh, the situation was different. The
Correct.
conditions were
The
different.
context was different. Agreed.
We really cannot now pinpoint the blame on anyone. But yes, we have had a habit of relenting a little too much.
Next.
Yeah,
Now, just summing up, these are the headlines of I picked up from Global Times, various timings. Now, this is heading. All the headlines are actually giving you some aspect of three warfare, either psychological warfare or opinion warfare or media warfare. Interesting thing was this infiltration exercise. This is as recent as Galwan. The news item said that we have trained enough PLA soldiers who will go behind enemy lines and cause sabotage there. At the time of Doklam, they were ready to accept 1890 line, whereas 1890 line, which was there, it was China who had faltered on it and did not respond to the 1890
yeah,
line despite signing it.
yeah. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Similarly, they carry out an exercise and say that capture high altitude pass using mechanized forces supported by air. Now, which high altitude pass are we talking about which can be captured using mechanized forces? But these are good points. A common man, when he reads that there are tanks which are operating against our army, they say that we are no match because they are coming on tanks without realizing that at that high altitude and with so much of logistic support that is required, how much will be the effectiveness of those mechanized forces?
You see, Brigadier Bhati, I would like to add here that the Chinese have always been past masters as far as information war is concerned. They have been targeting our population in a manner to project a superiority. There's no doubt that technologically they are very superior to us. In numbers, probably they are superior to us. But let us look at as to how much do they have opposite us. It is only now, after Dolam or Doklam, I always call it as Dolam because the name is Dolam.
That's the
We
correct
have
pronunciation.
we have been, always somehow picking up the Chinese name. We call it as Dolam. Why do we call it as Doklam? Doklam is a name given by the Chinese. I
Correct.
think actually the name which we give is Dokala. It is not even Dolam. If you go to Sikkim and ask someone which is the path, it is Dokala, and not even Dolam, not even
Actually,
Dokala. Anyway,
la
that is a
la straight away means pass.
yeah, that is a different point. What I'm
Uh,
trying to say is that half truths based information war has always been fought by the Chinese on various issues, and this we need to be careful and need to actually have our counter narratives going now. It is enough of a one-sidedness, we accepting everything. I think information warfare department of India needs to be also equally up to it. It is good that the Chinese have started telling ANI as the information department of China of India. I would be
that's
happy
for
if
sure.
they start telling all the newspapers that they are the information operations department of India. Fine, yeah, go ahead.
We go ahead, sir. Now, very quickly, sir, three warfare first time was actually exhibited in maritime domain,
Yeah.
and we studied the maritime domain, and somehow, since they were very successful in the maritime domain, they extrapolated it onto our borders. So, what did they do? First of all, they did the cartographic aggression. As we can see in the photograph, this swimmer is going with flags and putting it wherever he feels that he can, you know, assert
This
himself.
is this is
Once
China.
they put, sorry, sir,
This is China.
this is China's. So after that, they sent fishermen there. I
Yeah.
will request viewers to pay attention to the way they are actually doing it, because we'll draw a parallel on to the land borders. So fishermen very innocently go around and do fishing in that area and look for a reaction of the adversary in whose area they are operating. Then they give the Chinese names to all the islands and locations which are there. It is the maps are published and Chinese names are given. Thereafter, something called cabbage strategy. Now, what is cabbage strategy is that they identify a particular place, and to protect and put discipline onto the fishermen, they send the Whitehall, the coastal guard ships that they are managing these fishermen there. And slowly, actually, they surround that particular area by multiple layers of security. If we see, the dragon in the photograph, which is down below, has covered the entire South China Sea, and countries are wondering, Vietnam, Taiwan, Brunei, Philippines, everybody is wondering that what exactly has happened, and the dragon is singing. So now, because they have surrounded the target area, now they cannot even react to this particular thing. Now, another very interesting thing is the artificial islands which have been reclaimed, and their local government has been put there in place, as well as military garrisons have come up. Thereafter, new fishing rules have been made where none of the countries around South China Sea are permitted to go and do the fishing there. Very interesting thing, wherever Chinese oil rigs are operating, they are calling it national outreach of China. They say national territory of China. Correction, mobile territory of China. The oil rigs where they are operating, even that they are saying that is the mobile territory of China. In this air, they are challenging the UN laws, convention laws on sea. They are challenging that. They have even put the air defense identification zone in an area which is a free navigation zone. They're saying that any aircraft which is passing through East China Sea, it has to inform, and only after identifying he'll be permitted to go. So slowly what happens is, once they have done all this, after some time they lay territorial claim to these particular islands, and from islands then they look for the EZ which is across, and that's how they come on to the entire South China Sea, that it is their own sea and nobody else is permitted to undertake any activity, and free navigation which is guaranteed under the UN Charter is also denied. Now, having seen the maritime domain, we'll just move on to the territorial domain, and with specific reference to India.
I
In
would
the
like to
next slide.
I would
Sorry, sir.
like to share. I would like to share with the viewers that something, you may plan any damn thing as far as extending your claims are concerned. The Chinese are basically doing this to ensure a breakout through the South China Sea and have a control over the sea lanes of communication. But I believe the latest reports are that these islands, artificial islands, are sinking, and I think the God is giving them the justice, and hopefully whatever they have created goes underwater. That is just for information of our viewers. Let's go to the next one,
Yes.
related uh, to the land territorial.
Yes.
Yeah, so sorry.
Previous.
In this
Now,
one,
against India, how exactly the next one? How exactly the three warfare is unfolding? Like in case of maritime, first assert claim. You see that the cartoon which is there, where the Chinese is pushing the Himalayas and Indian soldier is trying to protect that. Okay, we don't have any expansionist intentions. So they assert, and cartographic assertion is imposed. Then they assert like
I would also I like to add that they have been flaunting revenue documents
that's
over a
right.
period of time during our various discussions at the border level,
We,
and even at the working group level at the national level. That is between the two countries, joint working group. So they have been using number of means to ensure that they establish their claims over these areas.
absolutely. So, like in case of maritime, it is fishermen. Here, they are herders. The graziers, they go there. There's an occasional sighting. Basically, they're testing water. That what is our reaction? After few days, these graziers are followed by civil functionaries, and they carry out some sort of survey. Now, this is a provocation, but many times they do it in such an area that probably we come to know about it slightly late, and by the time we react, these people have already wound up and go. Now, this is why they're doing it, is basically they are collecting evidences so that tomorrow, when the case is legally debated, that they can produce these as evidences.
True.
Now, thereafter, the quasi-military, that is the People's Armed Police Force, they accompany the civilians and they say that we are providing security to them. Then a temporary grazier hut comes up there. It's a very very temporary in nature with little bit of roof on top, and then a PRC, the Chinese flag will start. Uh, you'll find.
I think the Indians are also quite expert in this, except that they do it inside. How a mandir comes up or a masjid comes up, and
Correct.
then suddenly you will have few stones placed there. Thereafter, a jhopri will come up. Then there will be
Correct.
something also. So this is a very natural phenomena, which we are seeing. Only thing is, we are not actually actively refuting it. We were not, but I
We were
believe
not. Now we are doing it.
all, all this is changing, and now we are also doing a similar kind of activities across the borders, and there's a tit for tat going along.
Absolutely, sir. Quid pro quo is going on, sir. If see, sir, wherever they do, they have to be administratively supported. Whosoever is doing it, so they are doing it at places which are convenient to them, and we probably, instead of reacting immediately at the same place, we are doing it at some other location which are convenient to us.
Yeah,
So then the aggressive patrolling starts. Once aggressive patrolling starts, and we also come to know about what is happening, the transgressions and face offs take place. The own civilian which are moving around is also, they are disturbed. Now, at whichever stage we are able to stop it, it is, they also back out. It's not that they keep insisting. They look for some other place. So it's a cat and mouse game which is actually going on. Now, this what I have listed is at a place where we have, for some reasons, we have not been able to react immediately. Now here, the tri-junctions, the tri-junctions like Dokala, Dolam is very important. Similarly, there are two more tri-junctions where we need to be very, very careful. One is at the Nepal-India-Tibet tri-junction, and the third
Yeah,
is India, Tibet, and Myanmar. Now, here what happens is again the legal warfare thing comes up, because though it is directly affecting our security, but mountains being what they are, at times we are not able to approach them until unless we use the territory of some other country. Or they are instigating, like in case of Nepal, they have instigated Nepal to create this controversy of Kalapani. So
yeah,
Nepal proxy is actually claiming land in our areas. So
that's right. That's right.
So what happens is that if they remain unchecked, then they create some semi-permanent structure, and formation cutting is seen on approaching this particular location. Again, if they are not checked, then the PLA deploys, then helipad, water scheme, bridges, culvert, and road come up. Now, once they have settled down there, it is extremely difficult to evict them from that particular place. And like I had mentioned earlier, legally also they cover and they stake claim that we were there. And that time India did not refuse. Now coming to Shiakong villages, which I had covered in the previous podcast, and having read, understood about psychological opinion and legal warfare, let me correlate that how Shiakong villages are fulfilling these three aspects of the three warfare strategy. Psychological, they are being told that better economic opportunities will wean Tibetan from external influences. Tibetans, we have Tibetan government in exile, we have Dalai Lama here, and like you had mentioned in the opening remarks, that Tibetans are not very happy with the occupation of their country. So they feel that if economically Tibetans do well, it will wean them away from the external influences. Improving economy, loyalty to the party will increase. Propaganda to spread discontent across the borders. Now, this is interesting. Now, when they meet in the border personal meeting, the locals are being instigated, and the political officers are spreading a rumor around that look at the living condition across the border in Tibet as well as in our side of Arunachal Pradesh. So this is a psychological war which they have launched on us. Then similarly, opinion, enhance the border control, improved infrastructure, better capability to combat any unrest, and upper hand. Now, this is through media. They are time and again saying that now we are better. We have a better hold of the internal security situation as well as external threat. There's an opinion which is being built up. Now, legally, there's a Land Border Act which has been passed, which came into effect on 1st of January last year, which prohibits construction of permanent facilities near border. Now, this purposely they've left it very vague. Now, quoting this land border, they may even object to construction activity that we undertake, and this could be a reason for conflict or for at least face-offs. And they are settling down the population there. According to the Border Defense Cooperation Act 2005, the settled ethnic population and post will not be used to assert the claim. That is, that once they are settled in a particular place, we cannot lay our claim. Though there are few media reports of some villages having been constructed on this side of the LAC, but mostly they are in Nepal, Bhutan and Myanmar. There they have come up. Now, once these villages have come up, they automatically become part of Tibet and hence China. So this
Yeah.
is how.
The Brigadier Bhatia, since we are also running out of time, let's. I would also like you to now focus. on what we can do quickly, see the problems are by and large well known to all of us. So the audience would like to hear how should India counter these. And I think if we can quickly focus on that, we will be able to sum up our discussion. So can we have your views on that?
Yes, sir. Sir, I have few slides that what are the countermeasures. I'll request you to flash this. I'll just explain this.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, we have to counter the three warfares. First of all, media warfare. Now, Indian media, what happens is we publish our the Chinese translations too often into our newspaper, and at times our especially our electronic media makes a big issue. Whereas whenever and similarly, Indians are also patrolling right up to our section of LAC, but there's hardly any news which comes into the Chinese media. Now, this very uh, report in our media, tomorrow when they want to stake claim, they can quote that Indian newspapers and media themselves said that we've been coming up to so and so place. So, hence, this is our area. Now, we are unnecessarily giving too much of credit to China, though we understand that its economy, modernization of armed forces, and its way to become superpower. Now, time and again, publishing this is a self-imposed sort of psychological burden which is we are forcing on ourselves. So, fine, we are aware of their capabilities, but I don't think we should go out of our way to publicize this. Now, infrastructure up to LAC, they have created infrastructure up to LAC, but how much they will be able to use it during exact combat is questionable. Like we were discussing few days back, how much infrastructure is actually military value and where it is located. Can it
yeah,
be used for military purposes?
yeah.
It's debatable.
Yeah. Most of the assessments which we have done of their villages, etc., assuming that them to be actually used for military purposes, is slightly biased. I think there are only limited portions of the villages which are actually usable for logistics and supply chain for any operations towards us. But that notwithstanding, we need to be extra careful and cater for the worst case situation.
Like I had mentioned, sir, our own media is confused. We don't even, sometime I see 4057 kilometer as the length and sometime 3488 kilometers. These are the basic details where we should not actually go wrong. No,
In
we
fact,
also criticize.
this is a very sorry state of affair. Somewhere, I think at the official level, we need to put out the correct data, which the government of India stands by, and that should become the authority for people to use against any particular debate or in any particular discourse which we are taking, whether it is in the media or whether it is in a track one diplomacy. You will find that the map of Tibet has been actually wrongly marked at number of times, and we have, in fact, once we have actually presented a wrong map. So
Correct.
there are these pitfalls which are there within ourselves. So we need to resolve our in-house infirmities and then go ahead. Yeah,
So psychological warfare, sir, we have to build our own capabilities because moment we have our strong military capabilities, psychologically we will be better off than what we are. Now, partially because of our media and partially because of our own self-imposed or self-learned social media, we feel that there is too much of disparity between us and China, whereas this is not so. We being in armed forces, we know that it is not going to be that easy for China to just come and overrun us. We have to have a credible or a potent threat, sir. Chinese have Tibet and Uyghurs as their fault lines. We have to at least convey to them that there is a threat in being by exploring our connections with Tibetans and Uyghurs.
I think that's a very strong statement, and we need to actually take cognizance of it. The time has come for us to go beyond a benign power. I think
Absolutely, sir.
we need to be a little more aggressive in our approach. And I think we are moving toward that direction. There, at least the statements are so. Actions, whether they are supporting or not, only the time will say.
And it's tit for tat, sir. Chinese have done with Naga insurgency and with supporting Pakistan. I mean, he's doing
Yeah,
everything. Why can't we also have it same way?
yeah.
We have strong alliances, sir. This will actually give us better.
I think Brigadier Bhatia, you've kind of summed it up. Self-reliance, make in India, highlight the Malacca dilemma, reduce the predictability of Chinese actions. These are things, but what is more critical is your domain, which is what India is currently lacking is the ISR, and unless we improve our ISR, we will not be able to proactively deal with the Chinese incursions or transgression, as we call them. And somewhere I feel the Indo-US visit of Prime Minister Modi dealing with interoperability would help us. One of the incidents in the past, which was the Yangtze Tamze incident, where
Yes,
we got some additional some forewarning of the
warnings. That's right.
we got the forewarning of that kind of an approach has to be followed, and in this case we have to go by our interest. We need not go by high values, etc., high pedestal. We have suffered once. I think we need to become more realistic and and follow the real politic.
The
Okay.
last point of reduce unpredictability was the point I said that we need to
Okay.
know that.
Okay, I was just trying to quickly
Yes, sir.
finish
Yes, sir.
up
Yeah, I know,
because
sir. We're running short of time also.
we've gone way beyond our
Yes, sir.
thing, So, okay, you could sum this up, the last
Sir,
slide of yours, I think.
the legal war, we have to be aware. We are unfortunately we in especially amongst the armed forces we are not very good at legal warfare or lawfare as it is called. There's whole of government approach, like I mentioned, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Defense. They are not on the same page on number of issues, and we have to identify and publicize the violations of China in right quarters, in not make a hallagula of it in the open media for too long. We
Okay.
have to very seriously revisit old treaties, laws, rules, tradition, norms in light of changing environment. We cannot quote the same logic which we quoting today uh, after a few months when the environments have changed. Whereas China is has invested a lot into understanding each and every nuances of the treaties, laws, and rules, and wherever, like I mentioned, it impinges their sovereignty, they either get the rule changed or refuse to follow it. Now we have to weigh new obligations of any new treaty or international law that is coming to us with a viewpoint that how China can exploit it and make our counters. Now, unfortunately, legal warfare is not component of our strategic culture. We need to somehow include it in our culture, and
But
every
mind you, there are experts in our country who are actually looking at this legal warfare in very close terms. I had called during my war college days one of a leading, I'm forgetting his name, leading legal experts who has written on what we should do legally to ensure that we claim back our POK and other
okay,
territories.
that's nice. And
So,
tri
so
junctions in passing, I had covered initially only. Moment is thing come at the tri junction, then the legal complexities increase, and we have to cooperate with the neighboring countries. Sir,
yeah,
very interestingly, again, picking a thing from you, sir, how current they are now about the recent visit of our Prime Minister to USA. The Global Time headline was US plan to rope in India to serve Washington's purpose, wishful thinking. And they have quoted this to observers that they are not saying that we are saying it. He's saying that some observer has noticed it and they have put it. And of
absolutely.
course, the boxing ring is there and the Uncle Sam is, you know, cheering both the parties to fight.
Yeah.
And the next one I found was interesting was that here is a chain where they're saying that the decoupling is taking place between China and India. And India is going in the camp of USA, and he says India's economy ties with US cannot replace its trade with China. It's basically trying to give you a warning that okay, if you fall into US camp, we are no longer trading partners.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
in brief, sir, this is what I thought are the essentials of the strategy of three warfare, which I have tried to cover and extrapolate it to the ground situation. So,
I think it has been a fantastic compilation of presentation as far as three warfare strategy is concerned, and the Chinese approach also linked up with the current events which are taking place. What we need to be careful of is that we need not fall into the trap what we have earlier been during the Panchshil eras. We have to be up with our guard as far as the Chinese are concerned. We also should be careful of our orchestrations with the US, which is as of now wooing us for its own needs, for its own requirements, and we should take what is required for us, what is in our interest. I think we need to be careful of that, and I am sure the policy makers that India have today are looking into these aspects, and we will not be blindly going either toward the US or toward the Chinese, or blindly opposing all the Chinese activities. Although, let me tell you, China and Pakistan are today our major concerns. We have a number of questions, Bhatia, but I don't think we can take on all of them. Uh, le- uh, 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 we have, in fact, comments, whole lot of them. We will just flash one by one, and I think they somewhere conform to what you are trying to say. For example, uh, as one dwells into an analysis of these three warfare, it is apparent, it's not apparent, it's apparent that
apparent.
political aims will be achieved largely by military coercion, manipulation, and economics. So basically, he's talking of a combined approach where military option is not ruled out. It would remain as a guarantor for all its non-military activities, whether it is cyber, whether it is information. So I think it is self-explanatory. We will not dwell more on it. Similarly, you have military coercion manipulation. Take us back to Dukan in 2017. Actually, it should have been Doklam and Eastern Ladakh, right? Then we have one question which Kumar Gopalan has asked us. Let me just see. Yeah. Ask ISA and PLA how both of them are influencing all our dirty work in our country. Uh, I think we have, first of all, thanks a lot, Gopan, for asking this question. Although, mind you, I think you would also be more aware as you have been listening to my discourse on this particular issue that ISI and PLA are hand in glove as far as India is concerned. Both are, in fact, ISI is the proxy of the PLA or China, I would say, and they are working no ends 24 by 7 to ensure that India is undermined in its efforts to progress. So we leave it at that, and
Sir, I'll just add one interesting thing.
yeah,
There is a serving full colonel of ISI who is permanently posted in Beijing,
yeah,
sir.
yeah. In fact, they have exchanged officers on
They
either
have
side.
exchange offers,
The
and
Chinese,
in fact, like you, they say that for gaining information about Pakistan, India is the best country, like Taiwan is the best for gaining information about China. So whatever Pakistan is getting, everything is going to PLA.
yeah. Would you like to comment on this? Spratly and Parsley Islands control exemplify phishing attacks. Would you? I mean, basically, again, Spratly, Parcel Islands, fishing boats, or we call it as fishing militia now. In fact,
Fishing
uh,
Malaysia, that's correct.
fishing
That's correct.
militia, all these are combined to extend their claims in the South China Sea.
Absolutely.
The
They
Chinese are,
always say they always say that traditionally we've been coming up to this area and nobody has objected so far, sir. Now this is the case with Bhutan. You would know that, sir. This is the
yeah,
case with Bhutan. This is the case with India. Everywhere they're doing it.
Actually, the Chinese today are somehow choked from four directions.
Yes, that's it.
Let's look at the reality. East China Sea, Japan, South Korea; South China Sea, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, partially,
Partially
Australia.
Malaysia,
Australia. Malaysia, no.
Australia.
Malaysia is still, but Australia definitely against the Chinese, all backed up and supported by the US. Then on the western side, you have India and the IOR. India, in fact, if you look at the statement which was made by Prime Minister Modi in the Congress, first time India has openly acknowledged that we are working towards becoming an IOR net security provider.
Correct.
This
Correct.
big statement which has come, nobody has noticed it,
Yes.
or people have deliberately kept it quiet not to annoy the Chinese. But
Absolutely.
let me tell you, the Chinese are being choked. It is not the string of pearls. It is the Chinese who are being choked by a choker necklace, which is my formulation. And I had written this about 2 years back, that why are we looking at string of pearls? We should look at a choker necklace around around the Chinese. They may be
Absolutely.
big. They may be big as far as technology and economics is concerned. But everything is not technology and economics in warfare.
Sir, most importantly, they cannot defy the geographies
Yes, and first of all, human angle and the geography.
and
I
the
think
geography.
I think if you are smart enough, if you are looking at the Russia-Ukraine war, the Chinese are learning their lessons, and
Absolutely.
they would be very wary of undertaking any action against India. The way they feel, it's not 1962 anymore. In any case, so with that, I think we will conclude our discussion here, and also request our audience to kindly like our videos, like our channel, subscribe to our channel, press the bell icon button. We are trying to bring to you almost every alternate day or daily something for you to take home, or for you to learn, and whatever we can share from our side, we are doing that. It is more in the public interest and less in personal interest. It is not a channel owned by a person. It is a channel owned by veterans who are dedicating themselves to national security and nation building. Thank you very, very much, Brigadier Bhatia. We
Thank you,
would be
sir.
more than happy to call you again as and when we get next topic for discussion on China. Meanwhile, Jai Hind, and a very good evening and a very good night and a very good morning wherever people are listening to us from on behalf of Strive Dialogues. Thank you, Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir.